Alright, before we begin this video, let me just start off by saying, holy fluff, my last video blew up like crazy. It did so much better than anticipated. I was, expecting, if I was absurdly lucky, like 100 views, and that was me thinking the stars would align. How the fluff do I possibly top that from now on? Oh my goodness, I've been doing this for 10 years and finally I get a video that gets more than 20 views. But in any case, we start off this video by talking about my next subject that, I wrote a poll for. Talking about the epilogue for Indigo Disc and talking about how potentially powerful the new Pokemon Pecharunt is with its mind-controlling powers. We see in the epilogue battles multiple times how Pecharunt mind controls people through the use of its mochi, and through them uses their Pokemon to fight those it either can't control or those it seems unable to control through the mochi it produces. But this got me thinking, if the trainer is mind controlled, then would all of their Pokemon just go along with it? Or would they know if something's up and refuse to obey if that's the case?
Is there more to us than the words we say, the games we play? Can we know that we're not dreaming?
Now, before I begin, let me just say to Local Maple, yes, I am aware of the multiple times Ash has been taken control of, but those aren't really mind control, which is what I'm talking about. And that is exactly what Pecharunt is doing. What this is called is possession. And mind control is very different when compared to possession. I'm referring to the episode he mentioned, episode 33 of the Battle Frontier, Battling the Enemy Within. There is a very distinct difference between getting mind controlled and getting possessed. While in the episode Ash does get possessed by the greedy spirit of the king of Pokelantis. Oh god, I forgot why I loved watching the anime, the inside jokes. Anyway, throughout the battle, Sceptile is listening to possessed Ash. At first, the commands feel within Ash's normal playbook, but as they become and more underhanded, Sceptile becomes more and more hesitant to obey. But obey he still does. Despite the fact that it feels out of place to him, he still does them. Even if he is hesitant because this is clearly out of character for him, Sceptile still obeys because of how close Sceptile is to Ash. Pikachu obviously sees that Ash is not right from the get-go because of the possession, but Sceptile was not out of the ball at the time of the possession, and so seems to be trusting his trainer's commands regardless of if they were underhanded or not. Because again, this is his trainer, and they had a trusted bond. When someone is possessed, their personal consciousness is basically shoved aside in favor of the new personality. It would be like me, who is a hat-obsessed goofball, who acts like an idiot on stream for the entertainment of his audience, suddenly starting to act very quietly, taking everything seriously, and using as few words as possible. You can tell immediately something is wrong if you have known them for long enough. Also, while possessed, the individual's personality is still intact, but it's often portrayed as seeing what their body is doing out of their control, as if looking through a window. They can see the world around them, but are unable to act upon it, as they have zero control over their action, as the personality possessing them controls their body, as if it were their own. With enough outside help and internal willpower, the possession can be broken, and the possessed individual can regain control over their body. But Pecharunt, on the other hand, uses its mochi to bring people and Pokemon under its control and chain them to its will. It also has another effect, that when eaten, it draws out the individual's desires and especially their greed. even changing them. But we'll focus on the mind-controlling powers of this Pokemon for this video. That other thing is for a whole other topic. When under the thrall and will of Pecharunt, trainers in Kitakami become controlled by its will, turning into, well, chicken dancing people that constantly say mochi. But that doesn't mean they aren't able to enact some will of their own. Depending on the individual and their own personal willpower and strength, some part of them can still push through the mind control. Take Arven, Penny, and Nimona as our chief examples. Arven is so embarrassed about being forced to do this weird dance that he's trying desperately to resist, but still can't help doing the chicken dance. Penny, being an introvert and anime enthusiast, is putting her all into the dance, probably because she finds the dance fun in a retro sort of way. As for Nimona, well, Kieran explains it better than I can. Not even the mind-controlling power of the mochi, putting her under Pecharunt's will, could override her desire to battle. She even seems to retain most of her personality and willpower during your battle with her. Personally, I think she would willingly accept being mind-controlled or possessed, provided she's allowed to battle, but that's besides the point. While they are being mind-controlled, they are unable to resist the mind controller's will, or at least they can resist, provided they have a strong enough willpower of their own, but they are unable to break the mind control is the key factor. It's only after the mind controller is taken out of the picture in some way, or their connection to the person they are mind controlling is broken, are they able to reassert control over themselves again. Okay, so what effect does this have on the Pokemon used by the trainer who is mind controlled? Well, we know for a fact that both Arven and Penny have full team rosters of 6. And we know Nimona certainly has bare minimum 6 Pokemon, just from the fact that she is a champion upon our first meeting with her. However, during the battle, with mind-controlled Arven and Penny, both of them only use a total of 3 Pokemon apiece. Whereas, we can see Kieran using a full roster of 6. Later on, when we battle Nimona, who doesn't mind being mind-controlled, she is also using a full roster of 6. Now, while the villagers who ate the mochi only use 2 Pokemon apiece, you must remember they are not dedicated trainers. Not everyone is as dedicated to catching and training Pokemon as the player and the specific NPCs, like Penny, Arven, and Nimona. They probably have 1 or 2 local Pokemon to help them either in their daily lives or to help them with their daily work. I mean, think about it. If you're, say, a farmer, what Pokemon are you going to want helping you plowing the fields? A Mudsdale or a galactic horror like Eternamax Eternatus? But what about our friends who are dedicated trainers and have full rosters of 6? Why did Penny and Arven only send out 3 apiece? Surely not to make things easy for the player. I mean, let's face it, by this point almost 95% of the player base that has the DLC has level 100 Pokemon at the time of the epilogue coming out, having completed the Indigo Disc DLC. And if it were balanced, why give Kieran all 6 of his team? He practically could solo Arven and Penny with his roster. Personally, I think the reason why only 3 of their teams were used were because those were the only Pokemon that would actually obey their trainers while mind controlled. Because of the bonds of trust between a trainer and their Pokemon, especially depending on how long they've been together. A Pokemon will know if something is wrong with their trainer, and they may act differently depending on that loyalty to them. Opinions may differ, but I think the 3 Pokemon that Arven and Penny didn't use knew that something was off, and so they wouldn't obey their trainers while they were being mind-controlled and under the influence of another entity. Pokemon are very big on loyalty, and some will pretty much do anything asked of their trainer if the bond between the two is strong enough. As an example, there is a common understanding that when it comes to friendship, trust, and loyalty, it is the starter Pokemon a trainer begins with, often referred to as the starters of each generation, that are considered to be the most loyal Pokemon in canon, as they will often be the very last to disobey if ever, following your every command and sharing every minute of your journey with you from start to finish. Just take a look at Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon, where if you keep your starter the entire time right up to the Pokemon League, they'll pop out and share a special moment with you, remarking about how far the two of you have come before you push on to the final steps of your journey to become champions of the Alola region. And depending on the trust and strength of your bond, they will follow your command no matter how weird or how out of character it may seem, because they trust you implicitly. Likewise, if they know their trainer inside and out, and know their trainer's close friends and have a close enough trust with them, they may very well also trust them almost as much as their trainer. This is also probably the case with Nemona's team, as she is so battle crazy that despite being mind controlled, her true personality still pushes through, and her team are all just 100% behind her desire to battle the player, as if they know deep down that the trainer's desire to battle is genuine despite the mind control, and are trusting you to save their trainer because of all you've been through together. And so they go all out as if nothing is wrong. It's either that or Nemona spontaneously shouts Mochi when we're not around, and so this is also in character for her, but I digress. So, while Pecharunt may control the trainer and may theoretically be in control of the Pokemon, at the end of the day, Pecharunt's mind-controlling powers only extend to those that eat its Mochi. If the Pokemon aren't forced to eat the Mochi by the trainer, it can't control them. And Pecharunt seems more interested in controlling the people than the Pokemon of Kitakami. It seems to me that we trainers should consider ourselves lucky that they give us such trust as to obey our every command in battle, as if they really didn't like us or had a greater strength of personal independence, they easily could reject their position with how strong they become with our help, and that we shouldn't neglect the friendship we have with them, captured willingly or not. They are shown to be able to leave their Pokeballs at times and even disobey their trainers if they feel we aren't worthy of their loyalty, let alone their trust. But this is of course all just my opinion and my line of thought. What about you, and what are your personal thoughts? Do you think Pecharunt could control our Pokemon just by controlling us? How would our Pokemon have reacted if it did manage to control us? Or even, how would we have dealt with the situation had Kieran been controlled by the Mochi? I'm Fedora wearing Reshiram, and I'll see you all next time. I'm going to ask you to like, comment, and especially smash that subscribe button.
From harm. If you trust in me, then I'll trust in you. There's nothing more that I need to do. If you put your hands in front of mine, we'll be shining through one at a time. Just understand you.